Welcome, everyone. So glad you could join us for today's session. My name is Anita Campbell. I am the founder and CEO of Small Business Trends Media. And today's session is Steps to Start a Business. We've got a great lineup of information. This is packed today with information. And we've got one of the best possible speakers on this that you can imagine. So before we get into our speaker, let's talk about the agenda for today and what we can look at. So first of all, we're going to spend no more than 50 minutes with Nellie Akalp. She is our guest speaker, and I'll introduce her in just one moment. And then we're going to allow some question and answer time at the end. So if you've got questions as we go along, there's a little box that you can post them in if you're watching this on Zoom. And it's the Q&A box. So go into the Q&A box, put your questions as we go along. What I'm going to do, actually, Nellie, if this is okay, I am going to bring up questions as we go along at relevant points. But if we don't get to them throughout the session, we're going to get to the rest of the questions at the very end. And we have a special offer for you, a special discount, which has been made possible by Nellie Akalp and her company, CorpNet. And so we'll be giving that at the end. So please be sure to stay with us through that. All right, well, let's jump forward. There you see us, and I started Small Business Trends Media actually 18 years ago this month. It's October of 2021, and I can barely believe it's been 18 years. I still remember the day that I started with a lowly little blogger.com blog writing about small business advice and information, and look where we are today. Now, Nellie Akalp is someone whom I've met personally. I met her a few years ago at an event, and we started talking. And she was manning the booth, and she has a fascinating story. She founded and is the CEO of CorpNet. .com, which is an online service to help you register your business, get business names, work on trademarks, just do all of the filings that you need to do with your business. She'll tell you more about it, but anything that you need to do to keep your business legal and get it started the right way, Nellie's company handles that. Now, here's why Nellie is such a great person to give this session, in addition to just being a wonderful individual in general and just a very friendly person. Nellie really is kind of almost like the founder of this whole online legal filing industry, if I might say. I don't know if that's technically correct, but in my eyes, Nellie is like the founder because she started a company, one of the very first, if not the first companies to do online legal filings or legal filings through online. And she then was so successful at that company. She sold it to a very, very big, well-known name. I won't mention them, but if I did mention them, you'd recognize the name immediately. And so after a few years, I don't know whether she got bored or just she loves this industry so much or whatever, but after her non-compete was up, she came back and she started CorpNet at that point. And I came to know her, and I really respect everything that she's doing. Okay, I've talked a lot. At this point, I'm going to introduce Nellie, and Nellie's going to take it away. Nellie, thank you for joining us.
Anita, thank you so much. I'm honored, I'm humbled, I am excited to be here presenting to the audience. Hello, everybody. My name is Nellie Akalp, CEO and founder of CorpNet. And I want to just get right into our agenda and goal today. Anita has done such a great job of introducing me, and frankly, I'm always honored to be working with Anita because it is truly an honor and a privilege to be part of her team and her resources when it comes to small business, startup, and compliance. So let's get into it. Starting a business can be one of the most exciting times of someone's life. And, there's also a lot of responsibilities that go with starting a business, and navigating the logistics of launching that venture can sometimes become really daunting. So in this presentation, we're going to review the steps of starting a business, including business name protection, how to pick that amazing name for the business, legally registering a business, doing business as filings as an option, opening up the business bank account, registering for taxes, securing the necessary licenses and permits, and then how to maintain compliance for that business. So that's going to be the agenda and goal today. I got to go through this stuff really fast so we can have some time at the end for the Q&A. So let's talk about business name protection. One of the most exciting parts of starting a business, and I think both Anita and I can attest to this, is coming up with that business idea and then choosing that business name. And choosing the perfect name for your business is one of the most exciting parts of starting a business. Brainstorm and crowdsource to find that perfect match. Talk to people. But before you have your heart set on that name, you have to make sure that it's available for use and it complies with the rules when it comes to, making sure you're not infringing on someone else's name and you're not opening a can of worms and a can of lawsuits for yourself. So once you decide on that perfect name, you have to check and make sure it's available in your state, in your county, and oftentimes federally if you're trying to, protect that name in all 50 states. So business name basics, here we go. If you form, if from the get-go, you're trying to set up your business as a legal type of entity, such as a corporation or an LLC, quickest way to do this is check to make sure that name is available with the Secretary of State's office. You can also go through reputable companies such as our company, CorpNet. We can check that name for you to see if it's available in the state you're planning on forming that corporation or LLC. Now, states are different as to what they allow as part of the name. So again, if you're trying to form a corporation or an LLC, for example, most states will require you to make sure the name is available and then have that corporate indicator at the end of the name, whether it's an INC or LLC, to make sure it's approved with the state. Now, if you don't want to form a corporation or an LLC, you can simply file what is called a doing business as filing with your county recorder's office. And generally speaking, most states will not require you to do a name availability search because it's county-based and you file that name with your county. However, if I were in your shoes, I would still check to see if that name is available in all 50 states by doing a federal trademark search, so that later down the line, if your company is becoming bigger, you want to make sure nobody else is using that name or similar name to it, so that your name is not being diluted. Now, there are also limitations to what you can use as part of the name. Most states will not allow you to use bank or trust as part of a name. And so it's really, really important to make sure you have all of those requirements looked upon, within your state before you go on and check that name for availability and then filing it based on the legal entity of your choice. Now, steps to registering a business name, super, super simple. Once you've secured the name you want and you've checked it for availability and you've brainstormed the possible business names, you want to definitely choose the business structure that you want to set the business up as. Do you want to set it up as a sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, or an LLC? And then you want to obviously decide where you want to register your business and what state. General rule of thumb is, set up that business entity in the state, in the county that the business is going to be, doing business, conducting business. And then, obviously, once you've chosen the business structure, you want to formalize it within the documents that are the set up documents that you want to file with the state or the county recorder's office, submit those to the state, wait for the filing, and then once it's filed, you definitely want to obtain what is called an employer identification number, or also referred to as a 95 number or tax ID number, that allows the IRS to verify and identify the transactions that are being conducted by the business. So those are the steps in a nutshell to register a business. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over back to you, Anita.
So we have a question for you, Nellie, and I thought this would be a good place to ask it. The question is, I have a business name picked out. The name is available in the state records, but the URL for it, the domain name, is taken. Does that matter? Well, that's an interesting question.
That's a great question. And oftentimes you will run across that. And that's something that obviously, you want the URL to match the business name. However, sometimes, we don't live in a perfect world. And with the, big launch of the internet back in 1997, most domain names are taken. So you have a couple of options here. If you're deep in to the business name and you've picked it and you've set your heart on it, perhaps you want to pick a different URL name that is a little bit of a different variation, or you can perhaps check out that URL name and go talk to that company and see if they're willing to sell it to you. The other option is, here's the thing, is you have a lot more rights if you've registered your business name as a trademark and have trademark rights to it. So it really boils down to who had first right of use, whether it was you or that person. And at the end of the day, if it's, if you're not really in the trenches of your business and you haven't spent a lot of money into it, your best bet would be maybe to alter the business name. So there are options available to you. And obviously as a startup, you want to go with the least, least expensive option. I hope that answers your question. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So what you want to know before registering, again, we've gone over this. Every state has its own rules regarding what is and what's not allowed in a, as part of a business name. So you want to check with your state's requirement. Again, if you're simply planning on incorporating or forming an LLC, then obviously the state will require corporate indicators as part of the name, such as INC, incorporated corporation, LLC, or limited liability company. And, one of the questions I often get is if I'm, supposed to, form my company as a corporation or LLC, but I don't want to every time say, my business's name, comma, LLC or INC, what options are available to me. And the option there is once the corporation or LLC is formed, the corporation or LLC can file what is called a doing business as, so that the corporation or LLC, it can conduct business just under the name without the INC or LLC indicator. And in that case, the DBA is falling under the umbrella protection of that corporation or LLC. So just make sure that you're checking your state's requirements before you plan on, securing that business name. Now, again, as we talked about, there are several words that cannot be included as part of a name unless, for example, you're a professional. And if you're a professional, there are certain names that have to be part of the name. So again, these are state-by-state requirements that really must be checked with your state that you're planning on conducting business in before you can follow through in registering that business name.
Let me jump in with one more question, if you don't mind, Nellie,
Sure.
real quick, because it has to do with business names. The question is, what if the business name is registered in another state? Now, I know you touched on that, but could you amplify that question a little bit?
That's another great question. So if a business name is registered in another state, generally, if you're planning to let's say you're planning on forming a corporation or an LLC, and that exact name that you're planning to use for your corporation or LLC is taken in the state of Ohio. However, it is available in the state of California. California will allow you to register that business name as a corporation or an LLC in the state of California. So the general rule of thumb is that the business name availability is by state. And just because it's taken in one state, it doesn't preclude you from using that name within the state that you're planning on conducting your business. However, the thing that you may run into is that, for example, if you're planning on using that name in interstate, in more than one state, then you may run into trademark protection issues down in the long run. So that's why we recommend the name to be clean in all 50 states, because a lot of companies want to expand into multi-states and in multiple jurisdictions, and hence it may be to your advantage to check and see if that name is taken, and if anybody has first rights of use to it in other states. But as a general rule of thumb, just because one person has it in one state and it's taken as a corporation or LLC, it does not preclude you from registering it within your state. So I hope that clears up that question. Now, tips to help ensure you don't break the rules when it comes to name protection. Again, we've gone over this. Check with your Secretary of State's office about the rules and restrictions for business names. Conduct a corporate name search. Easily can be done free of charge, and a reputable company such as our company provides this free name search tool at no cost. You simply come to the website, provide the name of your choice. We do a name search for you, and we provide you with the results, and we can even assist you with the filing request as well. Take it up a notch higher. You've done that free corporate name search to make sure it's available within your state. Now you want to take it a notch higher to see if it's available in all 50 states, or if anybody has any potential trademark rights to it, you conduct a trademark search. Again, that trademark search can be done free of charge, either at the uspto.gov's website, or you can simply come to CorpNet and we can do it online for you free of charge. If none of these options sound good to you, you can always enlist the expertise of an attorney to ensure you've covered all of your bases. With that said, let's move on to how to register your business. Now, for those of you who have listened to some of Anita and my presentations in the past, there are some webinars out there that I've done with Small Business Trends that goes more in detail as to how to incorporate a business or set up an LLC and the differences between each. But for purposes of time, we're going to just go quickly over this so that for those of you who don't know about the importance of business incorporation, I can give you a brief education on it. So generally speaking, when a small business owner is planning on setting up a small business, there are different types of business structures that one can, set up their business under. And typically, by default, if you're one business owner starting a business, by default, you're coined as a sole proprietor, meaning you are providing a service and making money off of it. And again, if it's one person, it's called a sole proprietorship. If it's two or more people, it's called a partnership. However, in light of nowadays and how easy it is to form a corporation or LLC online, it really, I would encourage you to look into that option, especially if someone has assets or if you're planning on starting a business that from the get-go, there's a lot of liability involved in it. And, simply stated, incorporating a business, whether setting it up as a corporation or an LLC, really provides personal liability protection, asset protection, so that God forbid, if you start a business and you wrong somebody, they can't come after your house, your car, your savings account, your retirement account, you are personally protected. Your assets are protected. And here's why. When you form a corporation or an LLC, that corporation or LLC is a separate legal entity apart from the business owner. And so you have liability protection, you have asset protection. It's a separate legal entity. There's also added credibility when you're incorporating or setting your business up as an LLC. More people are likely want to conduct business with you because they're looking at your business as a more established type of an entity, and there's hence more credibility. There's also more tax flexibility with a corporation or an LLC, and oftentimes we see that, as a business owner, you're able to deduct more expenses when your business is structured as a corporation or an LLC. Now, here's some of the different types of business structures. Again, when you're trying to choose a business structure, some of the factors that you want to consider when choosing that business structure is, number one, where you plan to conduct your business. Do you have assets where you want limited liability or limited liability protection? Whether you'll have a partner or an investor, how much you're expected to earn and the deductions. Are you or do you have any desire to minimize self-employment taxes? Because again, as a sole proprietorship or partnership, because it's not a separate legal entity, you're going to be subject to higher self-employment taxes. You also want to consider your business goals and your tolerance for compliance formalities and paperwork, and also registration and administrative costs and compliance costs after that business structure is formed. So here are all the different types of business formation options available to you. It starts with the most basic type of entity, sole proprietorship, all the way down to a professional corporation. Again, for purposes of this webinar, the sole prop is the most simplest form of entity. And then I'm going through with the most formal type of entity, which is really a corporation. And then we get into the different types of corporations. An S corporation is a type of C corporation where, it allows for pass-through taxation. Then there's the limited liability company where it's it gives you the best of both worlds. You get limited liability, but without all the formalities of corporation. And then you have the professional corporation, which is really a corporation, but designed for individuals that are offering a professional service. So in this next slide, I've pretty much summarized the different types of, again, entities, and then what is required for formation, how much liability it offers you, whether you can transfer interest, the duration, whether there is and that entity offers pass-through taxation, whether you can raise capital, and then limitation on the number of owners. Again, these slides will be available to you for download after this webinar, and you can always reach out to us at info@corpnet.com if you'd like more information. To give you, again, a little bit more color onto this whole thing, as I've summarized for you, when you are planning on considering which route to go when it comes to setting up a business structure, it really starts with, do you want to limit your personal liability? And from there, you can, as you can see, follow down the three. So for example, if somebody wants to limit their personal liability, the answer is yes. Then we go, okay, what is the objective here? Do you want to go public or possibly avoid double taxation? Oftentimes with small business owners, they're not wanting to go public from the get-go, but it's more about, liability protection and, setting themselves up for the maximum tax benefits available from that entity. And then from there, you can see that if, for example, the objective is to avoid double taxation, then the options available for a small business owner are either the S corporation or the LLC. And we've done a great webinar in the past, really honing down on these business entities that is available on the Small Business Trends website. Now, the next question that you want to consider is where to register that business entity. Again, there's this hype about Delaware, Nevada, and your home state. General rule of thumb is if you're a small business with less than 10 employees, the rule of thumb is to incorporate in the state where the business is located, where the shareholders, the business owners are located, where the employees are located, because that is really where you're going to get the best savings. Now, there's this hype about Delaware and Nevada and Wyoming. Those are all great states. Delaware is often chosen, especially by larger companies, because it does have a lot of protection when it comes to the shareholders of the corporation. But at the end of the day, if your company is not physically located in Delaware, and let's say it's located in California, California laws are going to apply to you. So at the end of the day, incorporate in your home state for maximum benefits and protection. Otherwise, you're subjecting yourself to double filing fees, double state laws, and double state tax laws as well. Next, after that, once you've chosen the business name, you've chosen the type of business structure you want, you've chosen where you want to set up that corporation or an LLC or set up that business, you want to draft the formation documents. Typically with a corporation or an S corporation, you have to file what is called articles of incorporation with that state. If it's an LLC, it's articles of organization. If you are a business owner who simply wants to keep it simple and set up a sole proprietorship or partnership, you really don't need to file any type of documents unless your particular bank in your state requires formation documents. And in that case, as a sole proprietorship or a partnership, what you would go and file is called a fictitious business name filing. As a sole proprietorship, meaning one person, or a partnership, if it's two or more people, with your state, but it's often with the county recorder's office in the county where the business is located. After the formation has taken place and you've gotten the filed documents back from the state, you want to obtain an employer identification number. An employer identification number helps separate the business, helps separate you from the business, helps separate the business from you as the business owner. And an EIN is basically a social security for the business, simply stated. And you can apply for a tax ID number, also called a 95 number, also called an employer identification number. You can simply apply online through the IRS website, or again, you can come to a reputable filing company such as us, who can do all the work for you. And to simply file for a tax ID number, you'll need some information, including your social security number, and it will be filed online, and the IRS will assign a 95 number to you. Anita, back to you.
Yes. So just a real quick question that we've had come in over Twitter, and that is, will having an EIN number, this employer identification number, protect you from identity theft of your personal social security number?
That's a great question. Generally speaking, it's always best when you have formed a business to obtain a tax ID number, because yes, the 95 number or the tax ID number is what will be used to identify transactions of the business. And initially, when you're going to apply for a tax ID number, they'll use one of the business owner's social securities for verification purposes, and that's it. After that, it's simply the business will use the EIN number. So I would say, yeah, it will definitely minimize the risk of identity theft and somebody taking your social security information. So with that said, let's talk about DBAs. Now, I've kind of sprinkled this all along as I've been talking, but a DBA also referred to as a doing business as, is also known as a fictitious business name, assumed business name, or a trade name. A DBA is a name that's different from the legal name of a company. It is the name that business wants to use when marketing itself to the public and dealing with customers, when the business is formed as a corporation or an LLC. However, a DBA is also used when a sole proprietorship simply wants to conduct their business under a fictitious name and not their own name. So let's say I, Nellie Akalp, don't want to form a corporation or an LLC, but I want to provide services under ABC Consulting Services. And so what I do is I go down to the county recorder's office and I file a fictitious name saying that I want to start a business. I don't want to use my name and I want to provide services under ABC Consulting Services. And this way people, when they want to write a check to me, they can write it to ABC Consulting Services. And I take the documents that I filed with the county recorder's office, file it with my bank, open up a bank account under ABC Consulting Services. Now, another option is, let's say a corporation or an LLC wants to conduct business under a different name, but they want that name to be under the umbrella of the corporation or an LLC. So once that corporation or LLC is formed, that corporation or LLC can file a DBA doing business under a variety of different names, so that when that corporation is conducting some variation of that legal name, that variation is also protected under the legal name of the corporation or LLC. Now, again, the advantages here is that it helps keep businesses in good standing with the state. It costs less. There are fewer compliance formalities. It satisfies bank requirements for opening an account. And also it allows a business owner that specifically that wants to run their business as a corporation or LLC to save on the cost of having to open multiple business entities and having one corporation or an LLC and having that corporation or LLC file a fictitious business name under that corporation or LLC. Now, the question becomes, do you need a DBA? As a sole proprietor, if you're operating your business as a sole proprietor, then you'll need to file for a doing business as or a fictitious business name filing if that name is different than your own name. Otherwise, no, you don't. So if you've started a gardening business called Spring Flowers Gardening, and you're a business owner, you don't want to form a corporation or an LLC, then you'll need to file a DBA that you as the business owner are doing business under Spring Flowers Gardening. Now, what if it's a corporation or LLC? We've gone over this. If you filed to become a corporation or an LLC, then you've already registered your business name and you don't need a DBA. However, you will need to get a DBA if that corporation or LLC is planning on conducting to do business using a name that's different than the legal name of that corporation or LLC. Generally speaking, filing a DBA can take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, depending on that state's or county's timeline requirements. Anita, back to you.
Yes, just one thing I want to interject, and you may have a comment on this, Nellie. I've seen situations where, for example, clients and customers insist on like writing a check to a certain company name, and it's not exactly the name of your company. And sometimes getting those checks reissued can be very challenging, especially if they come from a very large corporation. So one thing that you can do in that case is, if it's a common nomiker that people seem to be reusing, is file a DBA for that particular name, just so that you can get checks cashed more easily. Is that a good thing, or is there a better way to do that, Nellie?
You've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what you do, because at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to file a DBA versus going back to that company to have them reissue that check. And this is exactly why the fictitious business name filing is out there, is to really, help you as a business owner be able to accept funds under a variety of different names, but it still falls under that umbrella of that corporation or LLC. Okay, so with that, let's talk about business licenses and permits. And this is something that, again, it's, really, really based on your business venture. It's based on your particular business plan and what you're planning on doing. But typically, this is part of the startup phase. And when you're planning on, starting a business, you definitely want to check and see what type of business licenses and permits you need. You also want to make sure that if you're planning on having employees, whether in state or in other states, that you set up payroll tax accounts so that you can pay your employees on payroll. But again, this is an area that we can absolutely assist you with. It's very simple. You simply come to us and we'll do a business license research package for you that conducts a research based on your business description to provide you with what type of licenses your business needs. Now, generally, obtaining a business license starts by, again, contacting the business development office or business licensing office in the city where your business is going to be located. And you can most likely find the information on the city's website, and the application and the requirements vary from state to state and location by location. But again, we've listed out the general following information that you'll be required to provide to your local state bureau to obtain a business license for your business. Now, tax registration, again, is a very, very important tax. I briefly touched on it. You gotta, determine if your business is going to be charging a sales tax or a use tax, and if you're going to be having employees. And if the answers to those questions are a yes, then you'll definitely need to apply for a sales tax or a use tax permit. And also, if you have employees, you'll have to register for employment and payroll taxes. And again, these are all the steps that we can assist you with at CorpNet for any of the 50 states. Now, I wanted to share a little bit of something with you here. Average small business taxes for a company, according to the Small Business Administration, the average taxes paid by small business of all types pay about approximately 19.8%. You can see small businesses with one owner pay about 13.3%. Small businesses with more than one owner pay about 23.6%. And S corporations pay an average of 26%. So again, I would urge you to consult your tax advisor, your CPA, your financial advisor to check and see what type of business structure best suits your business and is going to put you, in an advantageous situation when it comes to paying small business taxes. And Anita, back to you.
So just a comment that you might want to elucidate on with that data, which is very interesting. So it says that S corporations pay an average of 26%, but I don't think that's because the taxes are more expensive for an S corp. Typically, isn't an S corp used when it's a more profitable business that maybe has been around for a while, and so the owner then has a reason to want to try to protect more of that business. In other words, I wouldn't want anyone to get the impression that it's going to cost you more if you go to an S corp. It may be that you go to an S corp because you're paying more, maybe in a bid to maybe pay a little less. Is that possible?
That is absolutely correct and accurate. In fact, myself as a business owner, and I like to use real-time examples in that, we as a business owner right now are a corporation that's qualified as an S corporation. And truly, because of the fact that, number one, as an S corporation, there are strict requirements as to who can qualify as an S corporation. And the IRS places strict guidelines as to who can qualify. And those requirements are that the shareholders of that corporation have to be residents or US citizens. There can only be up to 100 shareholders. There can only be one type of stock within that corporation. And that election has to be made within 75 business days of that corporation coming into existence, or the corporation issuing out shares or planning to actually start conducting business, whichever happens earlier. But in a nutshell, as a corporation, the setup costs might be a little bit higher, but on average, the cost of conducting your business as an S corporation may be more beneficial to you as a business owner, not only because of the tax consequences, because as a normal corporation, you're paying double taxation. Once at the corporate level and then once at the individual level when the corporation pays out dividends to the shareholders. With an S corporation, you're bypassing paying those taxes at the corporate level. So all the profits and losses are passing through and are reported once at the individual level. And although that average could be 26% or a little bit less, we're just saying an average here. When you look at the overall situation, it's a lot less, because generally a corporation, although now they pay a flat tax as a result of the passage of the Jobs Act, it's still much more expensive because as a regular C corporation, you're paying double taxation. So for those of you small business owners who qualify, I would definitely urge you to consider going the S Corp route if you don't mind a little bit more paperwork and formalities. And again, if you don't qualify, there's always the option of the LLC, because the LLC will provide you those benefits of liability protection, and the LLC will also act as a pass-through entity for those who can't qualify as an S Corp. So I hope that's clarified it here for you.
Thank you.
So absolutely. So with that said, once someone is formed as a corporation or an LLC, their job is not done. There are compliance requirements that are required by that business owner to maintain that corporation or LLC in compliance throughout the lifetime of that business. And no matter where you operate your business, you need to maintain compliance. And we've created a list of compliance steps and a compliance list that a business owner has to maintain, especially if you're a corporation or an LLC. You definitely have to maintain a registered agent for that corporation or LLC within the state that the corporation or LLC is located. With a corporation or LLC, you have to file annual reports timely. If it's a corporation or an S corporation, no matter, even if it's one person, there has to be an annual meeting held, and there has to be a recording of those minutes of that meeting. And then, if that corporation or LLC has employees, we got to make sure we're withholding and remitting payroll taxes and reporting and paying those applicable taxes. And then, down the line, if there's changes to that business entity, there needs to be filings done with the state to keep the state notified of those changes. And we have a ton of helpful resources, again, that we can assist you with through CorpNet, whether you're starting a business and wanting to conduct a business name search, or want to protect that name in all 50 states, or if you need help in picking the right business entity for your business, or if you're an existing business entity, we can help you with compliance and much more. So definitely come and check out our tools and resources at CorpNet. And then for those of you who are, business compliance experts, if you're a financial advisor, if you're a business coach, or if you're a business, consultant, In a nutshell, if you're a business that's representing other clients and would like to offer these services to your clients, we also have an amazing CorpNet partner program whereby you can start using our services and helping your clients. So you can either resell our services as your own through our partner program to your clients while we do the back end work, or you can simply refer your clients to a verified, trusted partner who can provide white glove, unparalleled services to your clients and bring them right back to you. So it has been an absolute pleasure presenting to all of you. And with that, I'm going to hand it over back to Anita.
Thank you so much, Nellie. That was like great information, a whirlwind tour. And I will tell you, some of those charts in here are just absolute gold, where you're doing, comparisons of different types of business structure and whatever. So thank you very much. I also want to give you a big thank you and shout out for making this discount available. So everyone, I want you to know that Nellie's company has made a 10% discount on any of the services. Now, that doesn't include any filing fees or anything you have to pay to the government entities, but any of the CorpNet's services, there's a 10% discount if you use the discount code SMBT10 with the digit 110, or you can just go to a page we have set up, go to sbt.me/DOK. That's a URL, and you could go there as well. Did I state that correctly about how the discount applies, Nellie?
Yes, absolutely. Just come to the corpnet.com website, whatever service you'd like to choose. Our order forms are super simple. It's literally a one-page order form. And then during the checkout process, which is the second page, there's a place where you can put the coupon code. You put SMBT10, you hit the validate coupon, and it'll take that percentage off our service fees. And again, it's an amazing, amazing pleasure to present to this audience. And I hope you found this webinar helpful. And again, if you have any questions, I think Anita is going to open it up for a little bit of Q&A. And for those of you where we don't get to your questions, you can always reach out to us by email to info@corpnet.com.
Yes, well, we've got some additional questions. You may have answered some of these all the way along, but Nellie, this would be a good way to recap and maybe refer to a couple of the slides again as well. So question came in, is there a problem if I just start selling? I had a hobby where I was selling at a flea market and on eBay, and now it's turned into a business. I didn't check a business name. It's just me as an individual, and it's become this business. Is it too late? Did I mess up somehow? What should I do?
No, not at all. In fact, I would say you were in your testing stages, and it obviously has turned into something more viable. And I would say it's never too late, and how amazing that you're thinking about this now. So I would encourage you to consider securing that business name, making that business legal. And, again, in light of how simple and affordable it is online, take the steps and consider putting that business into a legal type of entity. So yeah, it's never too late.
That is great. Okay. I know you touched on this, but maybe just to reiterate, what if you have a remote business with employees or even owners in multiple states? Where should you incorporate?
That's a tricky question. Generally speaking, I would probably encourage you to look at the business as a whole and see where the servers are located, where the business owners of that business are located, where the funds are being deposited into a bank. Because nowadays, unfortunately, because of the state that our nation is in with the pandemic and everything else going on, a lot of businesses have gone remote. And a lot of businesses have also, I always tend to look at the blessings with everything that's going on. And even though a business has gotten remote, there are more options available to business owners as far as, having access to more talent remote in other states. So again, at the end of the day, I would look at where the business does the majority of its transactions, where the business owners of that business are located. And I would say probably you want to start there. And then if there's employees in other states and those employees are on payroll, then you definitely want to make sure that business is registered to do business in those other states as well as a foreign company and is also registered for payroll.
Excellent. Okay. How do you decide what kind of entity to create? LLC, S Corp, partnership? You actually had a great slide on that, Nellie. I think that was a really good recap, but maybe just sort of recap in just kind of casual words.
Absolutely.
How do you decide? How do you make that decision?
Generally speaking, as a small business owner, the first question you want to ask yourself is, what is the business going to be doing? Is it a high liability business? And then as a business owner, do I have any assets? Do I have a car? Do I have a house? Do I have a retirement account? Do I have a savings account? Am I putting myself at risk personally where that, God forbid, if this business starts conducting business and I end up wronging somebody or hurting somebody, can they come after me personally? And if the answers to those questions are going to be a yes, then you definitely have canceled the option of sole prop and partnership, and you definitely want to go a separate legal entity route. Now, with that said, then it becomes a choice of, okay, how much formalities do I want as part of this separate legal entity? Am I a person who wants that liability protection, but very minimal formalities? Then you want to opt for the LLC. And LLC will give you the best of both worlds. I like to call that entity, you get to have your cake and eat it too, because with an LLC, it's a hybrid of a sole proprietorship, partnership, and a corporation. It gives you all the liability protection that oftentimes is provided to by a corporation, but without all the formalities. So if you're that type of a business owner where you want that liability protection, but you don't want a lot of corporate formalities, and you still want that pass-through type of taxation, then you want to opt for the LLC. Now, let's say alternatively, you're a business that doesn't mind corporate formalities. You want maximum, liability and protection, but you still want to save on taxes. Well, if you are a US citizen or resident, then you would set yourself up as a corporation and then elect S corporation status for that C corporation so that you're not having to pay double taxation. Now, alternatively, let's say you want maximum formalities, you don't mind corporate formalities at all, you want maximum liability protection, you don't mind the formalities, and you don't qualify as an S corporation, okay? Your options over there are either C Corp or LLC. So it really, really boils down to liability protection, formalities, and taxation. We have a great tool on our website, which is called the Business Structure Wizard. It has been created by attorneys and accountants and tax professionals, and it's a wizard that basically leads you through a series of questions that you answer, and then at the end of the wizard, it provides you with the best option according to the answers you provided to the wizard as to what type of entity you should start for your business.
Yeah, that's great. I encourage everyone to please check out that wizard. It's very helpful, very simple, easy to do, and it really helps clarify things. So thank you for making that very simple, Nellie.
Of course, of course, of course.
Okay, we have two more questions. Do we have time to do two quick questions here?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So the first question is, our business has changed and the name we have no longer reflects what we do very well. Is it hard or expensive to change a business name?
Not at all. The first question I would challenge you with is it a corporation or an LLC? If it's a corporation or LLC, then it's very simple. You would just file what are called articles of amendment with your Secretary of State's office to change the name of that corporation or an LLC. If that business is simply a sole proprietorship or partnership, you can simply change the name by filing a new fictitious business name filing with the state or the county recorder's office where the business is located.
That's it. And then you just change your branding materials and you're done.
Yeah, you change your branding material, you make sure if it's a corporation or LLC, you definitely want to, make sure you change your formality documents, your corporate minute book, your bylaws, your operating agreement. But yeah, it's very easily done. And we do a lot of those on a daily basis.
All right, good. Okay, and the final question is, I know this is hard to answer because you offer so many services, but the question is, how much does it cost to create a business structure and to keep everything up to date? Is it really expensive, Nellie?
Not at all. In fact, I would say, generally speaking, again, state fees vary from state to state. State fees can cost as little as $50 up to $300 to $500 in some states. But generally speaking, if you were to come to our website to form a corporation or an LLC, it would, and you wanted to obviously go the standard processing route and really keep costs low, I would say it would probably startup costs would be anywhere up to $500. And then yearly, it would be somewhere about $300 to maintain that corporation or LLC. Now, this does not include franchise taxes or your tax consequences as to how much money you take, as far as how much money you make. So those are separate. What I'm talking about is simply starting that business and maintaining that business as it relates to the entity and compliance formalities with that entity structure.
Okay, so it sounds like a reasonable cost, especially as you grow and you bring in more revenue, that cost is not going to seem like anything really significant.
Yes, correct.
Okay, excellent. All right, I think that does it for the questions, Nellie. We could go on forever, but this has been so informative. Thank you so much. So where can people find out more and reach you and CorpNet?
So for those of you who are considering starting a business, whether it's incorporating or forming an LLC, or you have a business and you're thinking about registering for payroll, employer tax, sales tax, or expanding that business into other states, you can visit us at www.corpnet.com. It's on the slide. You can also send us information and email us to info@corpnet.com. You can also visit us by picking up the phone and dialing 888-449-2638. We have live experts standing by Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. until 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and they can answer any of your inquiries, or you can simply go online and simply start chatting online with one of our live business experts. I'm all over social media. I'm a resident blogger for the Small Business Trends website. So you'll see me monthly posting new articles on the Small Business Trends website. And also, if you're interested in partnering with us, visit our partners area at www.corpnet.com. Again, it's been such an amazing pleasure presenting to all of you. We wish all of you a very safe and happy upcoming holidays, and wishing you tons of success as we embark on the new year coming up in just a matter of months here.
Well, thank you so much, Nellie Akalp of CorpNet. This has been great. Thank you all for joining us today. very, very helpful information. And, this webinar will be available in a recording, so you can go over, you can look at the slides again. It'll all be available. Thank you all. We are concluded.